in the spot and I came with the fellas. Ray Mac got hit in the back of his melon.
Hi, this is Lovely Roz, and I'm back with another collection of creepy stories. Please like and subscribe, and please follow all the wonderful creators in this video. I'm gonna keep the commentary short, so let's get into watching some creepy stories together.
Y'all, I've told y'all some stories before, but this one, oh my god. You know what? I'm gonna make this one part. I'm just gonna have to hear this. So there's this girl, and she told me this story from when she used to live in Haiti when she was younger. Her dad was in the US, but she used to live with her mom and her siblings in Haiti. And they had this neighbor, this lady, and she called her auntie because her and her mom were like really close. Like if she wanted to, she can sleep over her house to play with her kids. Like they were that close. And so one day she went over to their house to sleep over at her auntie's house. And, you know, she went over there, she was playing with her kids and everything. And then it was time for bed. And they were watching TV, waiting for themselves to fall asleep. And all of the other kids fell asleep except for her. Like, she couldn't sleep. And so she was just there watching TV. And at one point, she got thirsty. And at this point, she's thinking everybody is sleeping. So she goes to get her some water. And so she can go back to the living room. And since it was a sleepover, yes, they were sleeping in the living room. I used to do that too. We would all lay on the floor. It's so much more fun than you think. And so I don't know if you guys know, some of you guys may know, but the water is like the little packets of water. It's like a little plastic bag of water. So she goes to the kitchen, she goes to the cooler, she gets the water. And as she's about to go to the living room, she notices somebody standing in the doorway of her aunt's room. And she wasn't gonna really pay any mind to it because it's probably just her auntie, but it was just the way like the person was standing there. Eyes open, not blinking, staring into one corner of the house. And so she's like, hey auntie, I thought you were sleeping. And she didn't respond. So she's like, auntie, are you okay? And at this point, she starts to be spooked out. And so she's like, you know what? She's a Haitian girl that grew up in Haiti. She knows better. She's like, I'm not going to question anything. I'm just going to go back. And if anything, my house is right next door and I will go home. And as she's about to walk away, she hears this. Which translates to, they're coming, they're coming. Tell your mom and dad that they're coming. Out of nowhere, she starts hearing drums to go along with what she's singing. She doesn't know where the drums are coming from. She just hears drums that's going along with her singing. And at this point, she's scared. Yeah, she's terrified. And before she knew it, she starts dancing. I mean like dancing. Like the whole mama, papa, and she's like all over the kitchen, dancing. So she runs to wake up the kids. She wakes up the kids. She's like, oh my God, something is happening to your mom. I don't know what's happening. Something's happening. And so the kids get up and they see their mom in the kitchen and they didn't even budge. They were just like, oh, that's just Giddy. And they tell her, oh, that's just the Loa that possesses her sometimes. The Loa that she serves, she'll be fine. Let's just go back to bed. She's like, what do you mean? Do you not hear the drums? And they're like, yeah, I just told you that's the Loa. So you just gotta ignore it. Let her do what she does and it'll be over sooner than later. And she's like, actually, I think I'm gonna go home. The kids are like, oh my gosh, stop being such a scaredy cat. She's not gonna do anything to you. Let's just go back to sleep. And they leave and they go back to sleep. Except she couldn't go back to sleep after that. Especially while the drums are still going. She is still dancing. And she goes to the kitchen. And y'all, at this point, their mom is naked. Like completely naked. Like birthday suit naked. Dancing, singing. And at this point, she really wants to go home. But she wants to call her mom. But she doesn't have a phone. But her auntie has a phone. But she can't use her auntie's phone because her auntie currently is possessed by a Loa. And she is not allowed to go outside by herself, even if it's to go next door. It's nighttime. It's Haiti. Like, she knows better. The kids aren't listening to her. The kids are just like, it's normal. This is normal. Y'all, at this point, she's screaming, dancing, and y'all know what she does? She goes in the kitchen. She gets the hot sauce. And if you know, It ain't no little hot sauce you get from the corner store. This is Haitian made hot sauce that the peppers has been in that vinegar with the seasonings for months probably. She gets the hot sauce. She sits on the floor. Mind you, she's butt naked. She opens her leg and she starts to pour the hot sauce on her vagina. Now, I have heard stories before when people catch Loi, they catch Gede, and they do that. Like, I've heard stories. My grandma has told me stories. I never actually saw it for myself with my own eyes. But when the girl told me that, I was like, oh my God, you experienced that? Like, I've heard stories, but I've never actually experienced it. This lady is pouring pure hot sauce on and in her vagina, y'all. And she doesn't feel a thing. She goes right back up to dancing like it was usual. And at this point, she said, fuck this, I'm going home. And so that's exactly what she did. She ran outside, she went next door, she was knocking on her barrière, which means her gate. And it took a while because there's the gate and then there's the actual house and the front door to the house. Her dad heard her knocking on the thing. He came out, opened the gate for her. She's terrified. She's crying. She's in tears at this point. And her dad is like, what happened? And she explained to her dad, like, what was happening. And her dad is like, oh, okay, well, let's just go to bed. We'll take care of this tomorrow. Come to find out, y'all, she does this all the time, for real, like the kid said. Even with the whole pouring the hot sauce on her vagina, she does this all the time. And she does not feel it after she does it, but she does feel it when the Loi leaves. When it's just her, she feels that burn. That infection came. But at the same time, it's not her that was doing it. She pays for the price afterwards. Sometimes she'll even go to the hospital because of how bad it gets. And for some reason, she wasn't allowed to go over there anymore. Every time she would ask questions, like to her parents would never give her an explanation. But they were still close, like they still spoke and everything. Their parents still spoke. She just wasn't allowed to go over there anymore. So I'm assuming she wasn't supposed to see that. And her parents knew dang well what that lady was up to and what she was doing. But yeah, y'all, oh my God. Like, I've heard stories about this before, but when she told me that, I'm like, oh my God. So yeah, there's people out there pouring hot sauce in their vagina. If you like this story and you have your own crazy ass story that you want me to tell, go on my Instagram, make sure you're following me, send me the story as a voice message, and don't forget to click the link in the bio and get my merch. And of course, thank you to the ones that already ordered. I love you guys' support. I'm gonna have better merch coming soon, but I just wanted to see how you guys do with this one first before I start giving y'all the good stuff.
All right, if you don't like real life ghost stories, then you're gonna wanna skip this video. But if you do, then stick around. When I was a kid, my father started dabbling with the occult. He joined a group of Rosicrucians, which is a witchcraft cult. And he would bring some items to the apartment where we lived in after work, and he would go into the bedroom, lock himself in. If we were in there, he'd have us leave, and he would perform some sort of ritual or God knows what. We weren't allowed in. He didn't tell us what he was doing, but it was something to do with the witchcraft. Strange things started happening in the apartment, but eventually my mother left him, and we had to move in with family. And of course, we were very poor, so we all shared a bedroom. My mother and my sister slept in one bed. I slept in a smaller bed next to them. One night, I remember waking up at about 3 in the morning. I had been waking up at about 3 in the morning every night for a while, but on this particular night, I woke up and I was just laying there awake, and I had turned and I was facing my mother and sister's bed, when suddenly I see this blue light come out of my mother. This bright, brilliant, indescribable light that I've never seen before or since. When this light came up, it was like my mother laying there on the bed, and this thing just came up like this. It sat up. It was what you would call a ghost, a spirit, and it was my mother. Same hair, same face, same torso, arms, and because it was sitting there, the blue in her legs, it was still just sitting there like inside her legs, but her torso, she kind of sat up on the bed with her arms back, like when you're about to get up out of bed. and it's staring forward. And I guess it sensed that I was looking at it. And so it turned to look to me. And when it looked at me, again, the visible appearance of it was identical to my mother. But there was something strange in her look. It didn't have the look that my mother gives. It didn't have that same stare, that same glare or look that my mother had. You know, when a loved one looks at you and they're not okay, anyway, it was off. It was foreign. It was strange, and it was looking at me almost as if it was confused as to why I was looking at it. It was confused that I was in its presence, almost as if it was strange to it that I was looking at her. And this freaked me out, of course, after a few seconds. And I guess after I absorbed it and processed it in my 5-year-old mind, I began to scream bloody murder. And it looked at me, it was still looking at me, and when I started to scream, it just kind of went, and it turned back forward, and it laid back down. One of the things that really stood out to me was, as bright and brilliant as this thing was, it wouldn't give off any light. It didn't give off light into the room, onto the wall, onto me. It was all contained there. And it was the most brilliant blue light. I've never seen anything like it before, anything like it since. It was a blue, almost like this color blue, but just imagine super bright. And so after it laid down and I started screaming, I jumped out of the bed and I went over to my mother's bed and I was trying to find comfort in her, but she wasn't waking up. I was basically dancing and jumping around on the bed, and it roused my sister, my older sister, who was at the time 12. And she just kind of was like, "What's wrong? Go back to bed." And I guess she thought I was having a nightmare. The next morning, I go up to my mother and she's getting ready for work. She worked at a restaurant, and I'm trying to tell her about what happened and if she remembered what happened. And I said, "Mom, can I tell you something?" And she said, "Not now, mijo, I don't have time. I'm getting ready for work." I tried the next day, and apparently I tried for about 2 weeks, my mother recounts, because after about 2 weeks of me going up to her saying, "Mom, I got to tell you something," it hit her and she said, "Okay, what's wrong with this kid? Something's on his mind and he needs to tell me something. I better pay attention." And so I recounted the story that I just told you, and she had zero recollection of this. And that was strange. And she asked me to tell it to her more than once. Over the next, few weeks, she was just shocked. She told family about it. And the story didn't change because it's a memory. It's not a story. So even years later, we remember this. This is one of the things that stood out. These things, when you're dabbling with things like witchcraft, these kinds of things will follow you around for years. This is one of many experiences. So if you're interested in hearing more about this, let me know. Drop a comment. Let me know what you think about what I just told you about. And tell me if that would freak you out.
Tell me a ghost story that sounds completely unbelievable but is entirely true. I'll go first.
Okay, so when I was a sophomore in high school, my mom was dropping me off to school one morning, and she stopped the car and was like, "Hey, can I talk to you about something really quick?" And this was very out of character for my mom because she never really discussed super serious stuff with us like that, and the look on her face was the most serious I've probably ever seen her in my entire life. So I'm like, "Yeah, sure, what's going on?" And she's like, "I'm not telling you this to freak you out, but I just need to tell you something that happened to me this week." And my mom notoriously was like a gas station girly. She always went by the gas station after she got off of work, and this is usually pretty late at night. It was normally around like 11:30, midnight. She always went to the gas station, the same gas station, after work, and got scratch-off tickets and got like a Coca-Cola to drink before she came home. So she told me that when she had stopped at the gas station a couple of nights ago, the lady behind the counter, who was like fairly new, not super new, but my mom didn't know her very well, she was like, "Hey, I noticed the last couple of nights that you've come in here, the lady that's normally with you hasn't been with you. I was just wondering if she was okay." And my mom was like, "What lady?" what lady that comes in with me? And the clerk is like, she sometimes sits in the passenger seat of your car when you come in, but sometimes she comes in with you. She never really says anything. She seems like an older lady, so I was just wondering if she was okay or if something had happened. And my mom was like, what does she look like? And the clerk tells her, yeah, you know, she has kind of like poofy white hair. She's kind of tall. She's definitely elderly. So I had just was concerned that something, you know, I was just making sure she was okay because I haven't seen her the last few nights. My mom was like, that sounds like my mom, but my mom died a year ago. The gas station clerk becomes super apologetic, and she's like, I am so sorry. I do not know what to say. All I know is that lady is always with you, and she just hasn't been for the last few nights. So I just wanted to ask and make sure she was okay. I am so sorry. I hope I did not offend you. I didn't mean to freak you out, but there is definitely a lady that comes in with you most nights. And my mom's like, okay, you know, like definitely freaked out a little bit. She's like, I am usually in here by myself, but if it's my mom that's kind of, you know, hitching a ride, whatever, it's okay. And already as she's telling me this, I'm super freaked out, like full goosebumps. I'm like, what the fuck? Because I have seen my grandma's ghost a couple of times in the house before, and weird things have happened. So I'm completely like, holy shit, she actually just appeared some goddamn where. But it doesn't end there. Apparently, the next few nights as my mom goes to the gas station, that lady's not working. I'm assuming it's her days off, so my mom doesn't really get to follow up with her. The night before she's telling me this, though, this was the next time that she saw her, and this is why she decided to tell me about what had happened. Apparently, the night before when she went in, the lady tells my mom, she's like, hey, after you left that night, things got really weird at the gas station. It's obviously very late. I was in there a lot by myself. And as the night went on, I kept hearing someone talking to me. And the voice was kind of a low, like raspy, whispery voice. I could not make out what it was saying, but it freaked me out. And I called my husband. He told me it's probably just late. I'm probably just freaked out from the interaction between me and you. So he just told me just to hang out. He would come and get me when my shift was over and we'd go home. She's like, so we went home. Whatever, go to sleep, everything's fine. She said the next day we're hanging out in our living room and it's the two of us, me and my husband, and we both hear the voice. So whatever it was that I had like, so somebody just like kind of walked up to my window and kind of freaked me out for a second. So that's why I had to pause, and that's why I was looking off into the distance. Anyways, back to where I was. So the lady tells my mom, me and my husband both hear this voice and it freaks us both out. And I told him, I was like, this is what I heard in the store. Somebody is trying to tell me something and I have to tell this lady because whatever it is followed me home and it's trying to get your attention because she showed herself to me. She tried to talk to me and she's trying to talk to me at my house. Like it's followed me here to my house. And even the way she described the voice to my mom was like, that's my mom's voice, because at the end of my grandma's life, she had dementia. And she couldn't project her voice very loud. It was very raspy. It was very, like, she mumbled a lot. And so my mom was like, she is trying to tell me something. We just don't know what she's trying to tell me. And again, I'm totally immersed in this story she's telling me because I believe in this shit. I've always believed in this shit. And I was like, she is for real trying to fucking get our attention. And at the time, we didn't know what she was trying to get our attention for. Not too much time passes and my mom ends up in the hospital. And my mom gets diagnosed with lung disease, and turns out she was very sick and she had no clue. So with all of that happening right before she found out she was sick, we all fully believed that my grandma was trying to get my mom's attention to let her know that something was wrong and she needed to be like on alert. And again, story does not stop there. A couple of years go by, I'm invited out to a pool party by some friends, and we are all teenagers swimming in the dark, and we're like, let's tell scary ghost stories. I tell them the story I just told you guys, and one of the guys who's there, the guy whose house we're at, he's like, by any chance was this at this gas station? And I'm like, yeah. How did you know? Because I didn't mention it. And he said, well, because the clerk who was talking to your mom was my mom, and my mom told us this story from her perspective, and it has always freaked her the fuck out. It has stuck with her for a very long time. I was like, what? Because we had no clue. He had no clue who my mom was. I had no clue who his mom was. Then he looks at me and he's like, So your grandma followed my mom to this house where you're at right now. This is the house where all of that happened. And I, by some chance, end up at this fucking house telling this fucking ghost story about my grandma. And it just so fucking happens to be the house where the bitch showed up at. Insidious. Everything came full circle. I literally in that moment was just like overcome with this like crazy feeling of like, oh, she's here. Like, she's been here. She's at this place that I've never come to, and she's affected these people's lives. And somehow we met in the middle where all of this chaos had ensued because she showed up at the gas station one night, which is very typical of her. So I literally in the moment out loud, I was like, hey, Grandma, I know you're probably here. And so it was the craziest thing that's probably ever happened. She's shown herself several times. I have several ghost stories about my grandma. It doesn't freak me out. Like, it freaks you out because the awareness that it's happening, but it never has like scared me. It's just the awareness that she totally is still on this plane from time to time and just likes to pull little pranks and also sometimes warn us about impending danger.
There's a specific reason why us Caribbeans and Africans, growing up, they tell us not to eat at strangers' house. Not to eat at anybody's house, to be honest. That was so embedded in me that till this day, I will not eat at people's house. Not only is it because that not everybody is clean, but it's also because that you don't know what that person put in that food. Scary story time. So there was this guy, let's call him Leo. So Leo had this friend, and this was like his best friend. Let's call him Sam. And this is a real quick story time. Sam and Leo basically like grew up together. They were super close, like the bestest of friends. Sam had a younger sister. Let's call her Julia. Now, at this point of the story, Sam and Leo are about maybe 22, 23, and Julia was only a year younger than them. But growing up, Julia always had the biggest crush on Leo. And it was super obvious, like they both knew. But because that was Sam's little sister, like he respected that. He never looked at her that way. But that did not stop her from constantly shooting her shot. And so Leo already knew the rule not to eat at anybody's house, and so did Sam, and so did Julia. But they are like family, so eating at their house was like a normal thing. So anyways, one day they had a little get together, like game night type of thing at their house, at Julie and Sam's house. You know, I keep saying Julie, so we're just gonna say Julie. And so Julie got really drunk and finally like outright confessed her love for Leo, like in front of everybody. And so Leo had to let her down very easily, and he was very gentle about it. He told her, hey, you've had a lot to drink. And she's like, I don't care. Drunk minds speak sober thoughts. I'm telling you the truth. So what's up? Like, and Leo's like, I'm sorry. You're my best friend's sister, and I really don't look at you that way. I'm sorry. I love you. I got love for you, but it's just not that way. And so Julie starts crying because now she's embarrassed. And she's still drunk, so she's like in tears. She's screaming, she's throwing things. And at this point, party's over, everybody's going home. And so Leo goes home, he apologizes to Sam, and Sam is like, you have nothing to apologize about. Like, she should have known by now that you didn't see her like that. And so the next day, he gets a phone call from Julie, and he was very hesitant about answering, but he answered anyway. He picks up the phone, and immediately, she is super apologetic. She's like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. I got drunk. I should have never acted that way. I want to make it up to you. Please come over to the house. I'm cooking today. I will make you a plate. And I promise you this will never happen again. Like, I will never bring it up again. I respect your wishes and your decisions and your boundaries. Please, I'm so sorry. And so this is kind of like a weight lifted off his shoulder because he didn't want things to start being weird with him and his best friend and going over there because he would always go over there. And so before he left, his mom had cooked. And his mom is like, hey, eat before you leave. And he's like, no, I'm about to eat anyway. And his mom is like, no, I just made the food. Just eat. Please just eat. And so he ate a plate of his mom's food before he left. He didn't eat too much, but he ate some. And so he goes over. Indeed, she cooked. Everybody's eating. And she makes him a plate. She is super apologetic still. And he took the plate, but then they all started to have a very good conversation, and he didn't really eat. And so he explained that he ate before he came, but he will pack the food and take it with him. She's like, no, I think you should eat now. Just eat it now. You know, I made a lot of effort. I really just want to apologize, blah, blah, blah. And he's like, no worries. I will eat it as soon as I get home. I promise. And she was really trying to convince him to eat it, but it didn't really work. So she packs it for him and he goes home. So he gets home, he puts the food down, and he checks on his mom, and his mom is taking a nap. And so he checks on her and he closes the door, and the noise from the door closing wakes his mom up. And she wakes up freaking out. She's like, oh my God, my son, I'm so glad you're home. I just had this terrible dream about you. She had a dream that he was sinking into the ground and she couldn't save him. And he was screaming for help, for her to help him, I mean. And that's when like she woke up. And he's like, no, Ma, I'm fine. I just came from Sam's house. Julie had made me some food. And so he finally explained to her what happened the night before. And immediately she's like, don't eat that food. He's like, what do you mean? Like, everybody ate the food. And she's like, did she make your plate? He's like, yeah. And she's like, do not touch that food. I don't know what it is, but I can feel that you're not supposed to eat that food. As a matter of fact, bring the food to me. And so that's what he did. He brought the food to his mom. And his mom is like, if I'm right, I don't ever want you to go over there anymore. I'm not saying don't be friends with Sam anymore, but you need to cut ties with his sister. He just like brushes her off like, yeah, she always talking. However, less than 2 hours later, his mom calls him to her room. And lo and behold, the plate of food that was freshly made that day was full of maggots, bugs, flies, any type of critters that you can think of. The food was full of it. Now, this would be normal had it been food that was left out for days. But this food was cooked a few hours before. Mom was like, that girl tried to get you.
What's the creepiest experience you ever had in your life and why you still think about it?
Okay, so the creepiest thing that happened to me was years ago. I was living in Georgia with my mom, and I used to smoke a lot of weed then. So this particular day, I was like super fucking high, to the point that, you know, that high that you gotta lay down. Like, it's like the high that you like, take a nap, bitch, or you gonna die. Like, I'm dying. So my mother was at the head of her bed. It was a window over her bed, and I was laying at the bottom of the bed. So she was like laying at the head of the bed watching TV, and I'm laying like at the bottom of the bed, and I'm facing the window. So I'm just laying there, and it's like that. We like chit-chatting a little bit, but it was that high that like I could not keep my eyes open, and I'm just like dozing off and like so high. I felt so good, and then I look up and I see 2 nuns coming by, but they didn't have black and white on. They had on beige and off-white instead of black and white. I was freaked out. I told my mother, I was like, Mom. Oh, guys, the craziest thing about that was they wasn't walking by or coming towards. They was literally like floating by, and they was side by side. So if I'm laying down and I'm looking at them, they was like just passing by me, like the window. And they was, I don't even know how to explain it. That's how I know it was ghosts, because it was like they was side by side each other, and they had off-white, and then the rest of it was cream, like a darker color cream. And the crazy thing about that story is my mom had just like almost died. Like, I mean, she had the worst aneurysm that anyone, we don't even know how she alive. She had several brain surgeries. She have a metal plate in her head to this day and short-term memory loss. And she made it through, but we have several family members that passed, and I'm sure that was like the angel. They was walking, they was watching her, like keeping her safe. Obviously. Yeah.
I was in college. My dad told me before he left from dropping me off, he was like, switch up your routine sometimes walking home, like back to your dorm. He was like, never keep the same route too long. Now, when I went to college, it was 2015. Now, this was my freshman year when he told me this, so I'm like, okay. So fast forward, I'm in my junior year. I used to go to this place called 7th Street Underground. For the people that know, they know. Where I was singing every day. It had a piano, computers, things and such, right? That became my routine. I went there between classes, after classes, late at night. But one time I'm at Walmart. And as I walk out to get on the shuttle, I didn't have a car at this time. As I walk out to get on the shuttle, there's a man sitting on the bench. Now, if you know, on a shuttle, it don't matter what age you are. Like, you can get on the shuttle. So ignore my hair, I get it done tomorrow. Messages, switch it up. So anyway, there's this man at the bench. Now, as I'm waiting on the shuttle, another man walks up to me. And he's wearing like a magician hat, little pants, a little shirt, but you can tell he's an older man. And he comes not even 2 inches away from my face and says, "We've been looking all over for you." Now imagine that, you waiting on the shuttle, and some person you've never seen It was a white man at that. Jumps in your face and says, "We've been looking all over for you." "You and who?" And he looks at the man on the bench. Now this man looked like he's about in his 50s, got shades on. He never looked at me. Tell me you wouldn't be freaked out. So back then I was pretty ratchet, okay? And I jumped back and I said, "You get the so-and-so on my face." He said, "We know you. We've been watching you." "What do you mean you've been watching me?" He said, "You sing every day." Imagine that. I got 4 bags of groceries, fresh out of Walmart, and 2 really grown men are telling me they watch me every day. I ain't never seen y'all a day in my life. He would not get out my face. Broad daylight, at least 2 p.m. Run back into the Walmart. I call my ex at the time. I call him. I say, "Look." I give him a 411. He pulls up. The people are gone. Real story. Wouldn't even lie to you. When I make it to my house that day, and the video was in my phone somewhere. When I made it back to my house that day, my home door was glued shut. Glued shut. And I'm not talking about Elmer's glue. When the people came, they had to take my entire door off because it was construction glue. They could not do anything about it. My sister and my brother-in-law had to come while I sat in the hallway and tried to understand why somebody would want to shut me in my house. Long story short, when I took it to management of that complex at the time, she told me don't say nothing. It would make the school look bad. My point is, because I lost the plot. I promise you I did, just thinking about it. Switch up your routine, always. From that point on, I had about 4 different ways to make it to my apartment. The back way, the front way, through the classes, through the buildings. Never be too predictable. Bye, y'all.
Tell a story of when you experienced something that you still can't explain to this day. I'll go first. Back in the 90s when I was a kid, we were struggling financially, and anytime that I was hungry, I felt a little bit of guilt because I didn't want my parents to have to pay for my food. It was a really stagnant, hot summer day. Just me, my mom, and my brother were at home, and out of nowhere, we hear loud crashing and banging all over the roof of the house. We were up on the 2nd story, and there was a porch and like a balcony, so we could hear the porch and the balcony getting hit also. We're freaking out, and as soon as the banging stops, we get up and we run out to the balcony. That was the closest space to us, and when we looked out, we were like, what is this? There was produce everywhere. Everywhere. There was produce on the balcony and on the ground outside on both sides of the house. The yard was pretty big too, so for there to be this much produce, something really, really weird must have happened. We run downstairs and we notice that there's also wooden crates laying around, so we start grabbing all the produce and putting it into the crates. It was like a field day, and I remember thinking, this is gross because I don't even like, cabbage or potatoes and carrots. But my mom was really excited. We're all kind of walking around the yard, grabbing stuff and putting it into these crates when my mom looks over and tells us to stop. I remember her yelling out like, wait, where did this come from? And we start looking into our neighbors' yards, and there was no produce in their yards. I remember my mom getting kind of frustrated because, she thought maybe the neighbors that we kind of beefed with threw the stuff at our house, but that couldn't have been it because we were pretty damn broke, that whole neighborhood was, and nobody was going to waste and throw this much produce at somebody's house. Also, because I was a kid at the time, I didn't really think it through, but the produce hit the roof of a 2nd-storied house, so it must have fallen from the sky. That's impossible though, so where did it come from? A few years later, I learned about small freight planes, this was back in the 90s, that had been known for accidentally spilling the stuff that they were carrying through air. To this day, that is the only reasonable explanation I can think of. It was really weird, but it was also a blessing because we had a bunch of fresh produce.
I'm not imagining this. It's like 1:30 in the morning. It is. It's 1:30 in the morning. I'm at a hotel by myself, minding my own business, about to drift off to sleep, and I get a freaking call from the phone that's in the hotel room, like the landline phone. I didn't even know those worked anymore. And I answer. I get up, I answer, and it's the guy from the front desk that I've been seeing like all freaking day, who's made me feel uncomfortable. And he's like, "Hey, there's a pizza down here for you." And I was like, "I didn't order a pizza." And he was like, "Well, please take it. It has your room number on it." I was like, "That's not possible. I didn't order it." And he's like, "Well, what's your room number?" And I was like, "You know what my room number is because you called my room." do?
All right, we reached the end of another video. I hope you enjoyed and were a little spooked out by all the stories that you saw. And again, please follow all the wonderful creators in the video. And I will catch you in the next video.